It's Thursday, June 12th. In the headlines, government members push to remove the Auditor General from the Integrity Commission. In business news, Digicel's credit rating increases. Regionally, Caribbean leaders concerned about new U.S. tariffs. And in sports, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, to be deployed at FIFA Club World Cup venues. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. Members of the government on the Joint Select Committee of Parliament reviewing the Integrity Commission Act 2017 on Wednesday used their majority to push forward a recommendation by St. Catherine South-Western Member of Parliament, Everald Warmington, to remove the Auditor General from the Integrity Commission. Currently, Section 8 of the Act mandates that the Commission includes the Auditor General as one of its commissioners, along with 4 others appointed by the Governor General after consultation with the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition. Mr. Warmington has repeatedly argued that the Auditor General's membership on the Integrity Commission breaches the Constitution. He further suggested that Parliament erred when it included the Auditor General as a commissioner on the revamped Integrity Commission.
Section 120, 121, and 122 of the Constitution makes it clear of a responsibility and can be a part of any of the board or bodies. So, in effect, this is a breach of the Constitution in including her as a commissioner, based on Section 120, 121, and 122 of the Constitution. And this is the basis in which I recommend that, the Auditor General be excluded as a commissioner.
During Wednesday's committee sitting, government members contended that the Integrity Commission, which receives nearly $2 billion annually from the state, requires the level of rigorous auditing that only the Auditor General's department can provide. At present, the Commission is audited by an independent accounting firm. But Mr. Warmington and other government members believe this arrangement is insufficient, given the volume of public funds involved.
Based on as Member Hamilton says here, the type of audit done by the Auditor General is completely different from the audit you get from private individual. You need performance audit on all of those, and those external bodies do not go in-depth a complete audit and report to Parliament as is required by the Auditor General. And that's Section 120, 121, and 122 make it clear.
Government Member of Parliament Tova Hamilton, along with Senator Shireen Golding Campbell and Minister Pernell Charles Jr., expressed support for the proposal to remove the Auditor General from the Commission.
Chair, I would support the proposal for the Auditor General to be removed. The reason I believe that a third party is used currently for audits is because the Auditor General is a part of the Commission. So if it is that office is removed from the Commission, then the Auditor General can undertake the necessary audits as it relates to bodies of that nature.
Chairman, I made it clear probably well over 2 years ago that I am in support of the Auditor General being unfettered from the Integrity Commission so that she's in a position to audit the Integrity Commission as she does many other government agencies.
The question was asked of me a while ago of my position, which is supportive of what was said by Member Golding and Member Warmington. But I want to make it clear for those who are listening to us that when the matter of potential conflict, if you call it that, has been raised. Even the perception of it is problematic, even if it were not to be seen as real. The perception of it in itself is also problematic, and if we can avoid that, then we ought to do so.
But two opposition members present at Wednesday's committee meeting, Dr. Morris Guy and Julian Robinson, objected.
I don't have a difficulty with the Auditor General being a commissioner of the IC. If the basis is that the AG audits that particular commission, I don't think it is done by the AG.
I would say I support the Auditor General remaining a member of the Integrity Commission, and in my understanding, where audits are done of the Integrity Commission, they're done not by the Auditor General's department, but by an independent accounting firm, which removes that issue of a conflict of interest. But I would not support her removal from the Integrity Commission.
The committee is set to reconvene on Thursday to finalize its deliberations and prepare its report for Parliament. Chairman Edmund Bartlett indicated firmly that the committee will recommend eliminating the Auditor General's role on the Integrity Commission. The government is in the process of documenting more than 27,000 kilometers of road in Jamaica, and a number of these roads will be officially named. Making the announcement on Tuesday, Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness says this special program will guarantee that roads island-wide have the proper names and addresses. He was speaking at the ribbon-cutting ceremony for the Myton Gully Drainage Improvement Project in Old Harbour, St. Catherine.
Because if you look on one map, one road is spelled another way, you go to another map, it's spelled another way, and that all the addresses are properly unified. So that is a special program that will come out of the proper documentation of our roads.
Dr. Holness says the documenting process will also ascertain which authority, namely the National Works Agency, Rural Agricultural Development Authority, or the municipal corporations, has responsibility for the various roads, eliminating the occasional issue that arises when roads need to be repaired.
First thing, we go and we do a proper accounting for the road. Because before, people would call about their road and you couldn't even find it on a map. It is a no register. Nobody knows about the road. It's a dispute sometimes. Sometimes you say, this road needs to be fixed. And when you go to the MP say, no, this is a parish council road. And when you go to the parish council, they say, no, this is a NWA road. And then sometimes you go to the parish council and say, this road needs to be fixed. And the parish council says, no, there's a farm road.
He notes that in some instances, when a road is laid in a subdivision but was not handed over to any authority and therefore was never registered, the Prime Minister outlined that once the documentation process is completed, all roads will be assessed and ranked in order of priority, depending on their state of disrepair. He says, however, that not all damaged roads will be repaired at the same time.
It's going to take you at least a decade to repair roads that have not been repaired in 50, 60 years, some of them, or ever, since they were built.
Jamaica's education minister is pushing back after a troubling article from The Gleaner reported that most first-form students at the Pembroke Hall High School are reading well below their grade level. Portfolio Minister Dr. Dana Morris-Dixon says the ministry has launched several island-wide initiatives to tackle low literacy rates. Danita Rodney has the story.
Jamaica's education minister is addressing growing concerns over student literacy following reports that 70% of first-formers at the Pembroke Hall High School are reading below grade level. Speaking during Wednesday's post-cabinet media briefing, Dr. Dana Morris-Dixon says the ministry has rolled out several initiatives to boost literacy rates in primary and secondary schools across the island.
It's always sad when you see those reports, and it is the reason why we are focused on literacy. And you would have heard me announce that come September, from grade 1 to grade 3, we are timetabling reading. It had been taken off of the timetable some time ago, and we are putting it back on the timetable because we cannot afford for our children to leave primary school not literate. So that's our policy position. Now, we have instances like this where students are entering into high school that are not literate. And that's why we've put in some new programs. We call it the tactical approach, where we're focused on literacy in those schools that are challenged. And so our reading specialists are working with them.
The education minister is urging primary schools to get on board with the government's push to boost literacy rates, saying their cooperation is critical to improving student performance nationwide.
And so there are more interventions like that we need to do, but we also have to work with the school leadership because we do have a board, we have a principal in all of these schools, and it's very important that we showcase the schools where they have a problem at grade 3, and you see by grade 6 it has been addressed. And what that means to me is that it can be done. And with the right leadership and with them taking the tools we have in the ministry, that we can definitely, within another 3 or 4 years, we can eliminate this problem. But it takes the board to be proactive. A board has to be proactive.
Dr. Morris-Dixon also shared that the Education Ministry is working on improving the detection and the treatment of students with learning disorders.
And we're starting a little bit earlier than the grade 3 test. And we are training our teachers to be able to pick up issues. And what we say to them is that when you pick up any challenges, you need to encourage the parent to come into the ministry, to come in and get a diagnostic test. Obviously, that's one area that we have to improve on because there's a long waiting list for the diagnostic tests, especially at the facilities we currently have. And that's why we're building a new facility, which will be open this year, in order to do more diagnostic tests. Because I don't know if any of you have ever done a diagnostic test.
Food handlers' permits will now be valid for 2 years instead of 1, starting January 1, 2026. Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton says the move is part of a major update to the National Food Handlers Training and Certification Program. He made the announcement while addressing Parliament on Tuesday.
Some 300,000 Jamaicans each year apply for food handlers permits. And oftentimes they have to wait 3, 4, 5, 6 months for a permit that lasts 12 months. So as soon as they get it, they have to reapply. The process is cumbersome, it's bureaucratic, and it does create challenges for people who are doing business and require the food handler's permit.
The minister notes that delays in the process of obtaining a food handler's permit also impacts larger businesses in the food production and fast food sectors. He plans to diversify payment options for fees.
Introduce convenient bill payment service option effective January 1, 2026. This idea of going to a place that is in a particular part of the parish, as opposed to going to a Paymaster or a Bills Express or or the bank or somewhere, is no longer relevant. Times have changed, and so we're going to be changing that.
Dr. Tufton also highlighted plans to implement a bimodal modular training format aimed at reducing certification processing time from 3 weeks to 2 weeks.
Introduce new technology to facilitate faster and more efficient processing to eliminate delays and backlog, and increase the cadre of professionally trained food handlers to reduce the risk of outbreaks linked to improper food handling. And finally, increase application access points, reducing wait time and enhancing delivery.
It should be noted that trained food handlers nationwide reduces the risk of foodborne illness outbreaks linked to improper handling. Time now for the Business Report with Denise Williams.
Welcome to today's Business Report. I'm Denise Williams, here to bring you the stories shaping the financial world and guiding your journey to smarter business decisions. Let's dive into the top headlines. S&P Global Ratings, the world's #1 credit ratings agency, says that Digicel will earn US $800 million by the end of its fiscal year, which gives it strong coverage of its current US $1 billion debt load. Digicel's credit score also improved because S&P analyzed the US $216 million the company will be spending on its infrastructure this year. Digicel also plans to spend a further US $240 million on infrastructure next year. Deputy Bank of Jamaica Governor Dr. Jade Lewis notes that compliance with the ATM standards has been a long-standing challenge, as the regulations related to uptime for ATMs has only been met once during the 13-month period, January 2024 to March 2025. Commercial banks are still struggling to have the country's 878 ATM machines functioning 95% of the time, or for 22 hours and 48 minutes each day, as is required by the central bank. Dr. Lewis says banks are also experiencing challenges in having ATMs in urban areas resuming operations within an hour after they go down. The required period for functionality to be restored to ATMs in rural areas is in 3 hours after a breakdown. For the trading period ending June 11, 2025, these were the most actively traded stocks. International logistics conglomerate Kingston Wharves Limited, with 9,962,826 units traded, representing 45.43% of market sales volume. Beverage manufacturer Jamaica Teas Limited, with 2,914,496 units traded, representing 13.29% of market sales volume. Toll Road Manager Trans-Jamaican Highway Limited, with 1,375,189 units traded, representing 6.27% of market sales volume. We now shift our focus to the Forex market rate set by the Bank of Jamaica. On June 11, 2025, the Bank of Jamaica reported US $87.05 million purchased and US $94.75 million sold by Forex traders. Forex traders earned 96 cents per dollar, selling the US at $160.15 and buying the US at $159.19. The Canadian dollar netted Forex traders 83 cents per transaction, with selling at $118.01 and buying at $117.18. The British pound yielded Forex traders $1.10 in profit, with selling at $216.45 and buying at $215.35. For our credit report tip of the day, retirement isn't a finish line. It's a financial phase that gets you to prepare for life on your terms. If you're within 15 years of retiring, now is the time to shift from survival mode to strategic mode. Your credit score isn't just for borrowing, it's a gateway to passive income, better health coverage, and long-term security. With the right moves, you can turn your good credit into great choices, the kind that protect your lifestyle and build wealth well into your later years. And that wraps up today's business report. I'm Denise Williams, reminding you that every financial decision is a step toward your future. Until next time, stay focused, stay informed, and keep striving for success. See you soon.
In regional news, Caribbean leaders are sounding the alarm over new U.S. tariffs, and they say they're threatening regional trade and economic growth. Speaking at the opening of the 60th Caribbean Community Council for Trade and Economic Development meeting, Barbados' Foreign Minister Kerry Simmons warned that the sweeping tariff hikes imposed by Washington in April are squeezing Caribbean exporters and could derail progress towards sustainable development.
Chairman of the CARICOM Council for Trade and Economic Development quoted, and Barbados' Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, Kerry Simmons, has highlighted the growing difficulties regional businesses face due to newly imposed tariffs by the United States on Caribbean nations. Minister Simmons was speaking at the opening of the 60th regular meeting of QUOTED on Tuesday. On April 1st, the U.S. enacted sweeping global tariff increases that included countries in Latin America and the Caribbean. Under the new executive order, most Caribbean nations now face a blanket 10% tariff, while Guyana was initially hit with a rate as high as 38%. Simmons emphasized the urgent need for CARICOM to evaluate how its exports can continue to access global markets with minimal trade barriers.
The recent tariff shocks are a stark reminder of the need for us to diversify our trade and economic relations. We must redouble our efforts to deepen existing and explore new markets and develop new partnerships if the region is to advance its goal of economic growth and sustainable development.
CARICOM Secretary General Dr. Carla Barnett also addressed the gathering, stressing that the region is confronting multiple trade-related challenges in an increasingly volatile geopolitical climate.
The question of whether our exports can enter markets with the least possible barriers and whether imports reach us in a timely, safe, and affordable manner all impact the performance of our economies and determines whether we thrive or struggle as a community. These considerations must be uppermost on our minds today and into tomorrow as we take critical decisions in our region's interests.
She underscored the importance of promoting regional production, enhancing intra-regional trade, and updating trade policies to foster entrepreneurship and simplify business development. Dr. Barnett also pointed to the need for resolving persistent trade impediments and eliminating long-standing issues of non-compliance that hinder regional integration. The two-day meeting concluded on Wednesday. Reporting for GBN News, I'm Beverly Tellis.
Barbados is stepping up efforts to overhaul its mental health laws in response to a growing crisis, especially among the nation's youth. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Kenneth George says rising cases of anxiety, depression, and stress highlight the urgent need for legislative reform. He made the remarks at the Caribbean Regional Conference of Psychology recently. Anesta Henry has more in this report.
Barbados has recorded a 100% increase in the number of individuals seeking psychological and mental health services during and after the COVID-19 pandemic. Chief Medical Officer, the Most Honorable Dr. Kenneth George says, even though exact figures are unavailable, the Ministry of Health and Wellness is taking steps to prevent this issue from spiraling out of control. And improved legislation is one key strategy.
The Ministry of Health is in its advanced stages of developing new and improved mental health legislation, which is grounded in a community-based and human rights approach. External consultations have been completed, and your society was part of the process.
Addressing the conference, Acting Prime Minister Cynthia Bradshaw said, according to the Pan American Health Organization, approximately 10 to 15% of the Caribbean population experiences mental health disorders, with depression and anxiety among the most common conditions. She added that it is also a fact that suicide rates in some Caribbean countries exceeds the global average, underscoring the importance of collective action.
Among our youth, the situation is equally concerning. Studies estimate that up to 20% of Caribbean young people experience mental health challenges, including depression, anxiety, and behavioral disorders. Yet many remain undiagnosed, some remain misdiagnosed or supported due to the stigma and the gaps in the delivery of services. The COVID-19 pandemic only deepened these challenges with increases in anxiety, in loneliness, and academic stress reported across the entire Caribbean.
The conference themed Caribbean Psychology Building Mental Health Resiliencies, Empowering Our Communities, is organized by the Caribbean Alliance of National Psychological Associations. President Dr. Khatija Khan says the theme is urgent and relevant.
In a region rich with culture, complex histories, and unique social realities, our psychological science must do more than reflect the world. It must reshape it. It must speak in our voices. It must be grounded in our context, and it must rise to meet the realities of our people.
The conference seeks to showcase innovative approaches, best practices, and other research findings aimed at empowering communities. Anesta Henry, CBC News.
In sports, we begin with football news. United States Immigration and Border Enforcement agencies will be present at venues hosting FIFA Club World Cup matches when the tournament begins this weekend. That's according to a report by U.S. media on Wednesday. NBC Miami, the local affiliate of NBC Television, reported that members of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, and U.S. Customs and Border Protection, CBP, will be on duty during Saturday's opening match between Lionel Messi's Inter Miami and Egypt's Al Ahly. The report referenced a now-deleted social media post from CBP that announced the deployment of agents for the first round of games. It tweeted, quote, "Let the games begin. The first FIFA Club World Cup games start on June 14th in Miami," end quote. It furthered, quote, "CBP will be suited and booted and ready to provide security for the first round of games," end quote. Recent ICE raids in Los Angeles as part of President Donald Trump's immigration enforcement efforts have sparked protests in the city. However, NBC did not specify the exact role that ICE and CBP agents would play at the Club World Cup games, nor did it indicate the number of agents expected to be deployed. And that's it for the news on PBCJ. You can follow us on our social media platforms at PBCJamaica. Thank you so much for watching.